Welcome again to Joe's Stunner Boxing. A lot of people have been talking about showboating in boxing and whether they like it or not. Some like it, some don't. I personally don't enjoy it at all. I think it bores me. It's kind of cringe. I think Ben Whittaker, as an example, is a very good fighter, a very talented guy. But all the showboating, I just find it. People have used the word tasteless. To me, it's not tasteless. It's just dull. And by the way, I'm not saying that my opinion is correct. And if you enjoy the showboating, you're wrong. There's something wrong with you. It's a matter of taste. But is it tasteless? I just find it tedious, very, very tedious. And I kind of cringe when I see someone do it. I sit there thinking, no, get on with it, for Christ's sake. I watch boxing. And some people say, well, yeah, but the fighters are selling themselves. And okay. And some of my heroes, were showboaters. I mean, Muhammad Ali is the obvious example. I would argue that Muhammad Ali, although he predates me. I was born in 1967. Ali won the title in the early 60s. I did catch the very tail end of Ali's career. The first fight I ever watched was against Ken Norton. It was the third Ken Norton fight. I didn't really understand what I was watching because I was too young, but I knew who Muhammad Ali was. I knew he was a boxer. I knew what boxing was. And probably he wouldn't have had that stature had he not been a very, very articulate and amusing person. Now, that to me is the difference. Muhammad Ali was very funny. And yes, I think some of the things he said were tasteless. I think his treatment of Joe Frazier was very poor. And I certainly think if you talk about the era where he was connected to the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan and people like that. Yeah, I mean, he did express a lot of very racist views. But when you're in your early 20s, you're not very wise. And you listen to older people, and sometimes you take what they say as gospel truth. And although Ali was a Muslim from a young age, he said himself, the man who is the same or has the same level of wisdom at 50 as he did at 20 has not lived a proper life. And I agree with that. I do agree with that. And Ali he had incredible fortitude, when it came to the crunch. He was willing to throw everything away in favor of, standing by his principles. He was, in effect, not for sale, which I think I'm like that. That's what I've gone through life trying to be like that, which is probably why I haven't got a lot of money. And, but I don't sell myself. I'm a professional, not a prostitute. That's always my attitude. I don't do anything just because someone's bunging me a few quid. And Muhammad Ali had that attitude. Now, you might say, well, yeah, but that's got nothing to do with showboating. The point is he used the showboating to elevate himself, or to transcend boxing in a sense. And he was, again, very, very funny, very witty. His interviews with Michael Parkinson, which you can see on YouTube, are fantastic. Really, I mean, at one point he really loses his temper with Parkinson because Parkinson is questioning his Muslim beliefs and saying, is this good? Is this bad? Why did you say this? He's challenging him, as any serious journalist, whether it's a TV journalist or print journalist, an internet journalist, should do. You should challenge people on their principles and their morals, especially if they're very, very vocal about it, which Ali was. But the showboating, all the talk, Jiving Five, and it's going to be a thriller when I get the gorilla in Manila and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, that caught people's attention. So it is a good way of promoting yourself. A lot of people have said, well, how can it be tasteless? Because boxing, in effect, is about punching people in the face. And some people have said this, and they're people whose opinions I value. I think they're intelligent commentators. I would say that argument doesn't quite hold water, because the appeal of boxing for me is that it is violence. You are trying to inflict pain and injury on someone else, which is indisputable, but you're only allowed to do it within the confines of a certain sort of set parameters. So in other words, you're only allowed to use your fists. You're not allowed to kick people. You're not allowed to headbutt people. You're not allowed to strangle people. This is why I prefer boxing to all other combat sports, because you're only allowed to use your fists. And of course, you win fights with your feet as well, because you move and you've got to control the range. but you're only allowed to hit with your fists, and you're only allowed to hit, no punching below the belt. It's almost violence, an attempt to make violence civilized, and the fact that it is so contained and confined makes it very, very appealing to me. I don't feel the same about MMA, and I'm not knocking MMA. They're terrifically brave guys, real hard bastards. But MMA ain't for me because it is too loose. There's too much going on. I don't enjoy the grappling and all that stuff. If you do, that's fine. You like UFC and Bellator and all that stuff. That's great. Again, it's just purely a matter of taste. But violence made civilized, if you like, within the confines of that particular discipline, that to me means that if you add showboating to it, it's really... I think this is why I cringe, because it is, first of all, it's unnecessary. Secondly, it's, in my opinion, it's boring. And probably thirdly, it doesn't fit within that sort of tight discipline that is the appeal of boxing for me. It's almost like when you see a fight, when you see two fighters fouling each other consistently. I mean, you can laugh at it, but it kind of the fight then goes to shit. And even though it's not quite the same thing, well, it isn't the same thing, showboating kind of reduces what is a fight. It takes away that intrigue and makes it something else, almost like a circus act. And people have said to me, what about Naseem Hamed? I bet you like Naseem Hamed. No, I didn't. I've always thought Naseem Hamed's a fucking arsehole. I've never liked the guy at all. But he was a very, very good fighter. And yes, from the word go, I mean, I remember watching his debut. I followed his career from start to finish. And he was showboating against very, very low-level guys. One of the guys he fought, I don't know if it was his first fight or his second fight, had about 18 fights and didn't have a single win. And Hamed was trying to, look all slick, doing his showboating against a guy who was a pure journeyman. And Ben Whittaker has done the same thing. Now, if you do it against world-class fighters, the alley shuffle against, top 10 contenders, that's different. Roy Jones used to do it in some of his fights, the chicken punch and everything, and that's showboating. But he's in there. He's in there in a world title fight. He's not against a journeyman. And he knocked someone out with when he had his hands behind his back, and then he threw the punch from behind his back and knocked the guy out. I mean, when you're doing it against higher level guys, to me, it's different. You're kind of accentuating your skills. You're not just bullying someone who's leagues below you. That seems, I suppose that is tasteless to me. So I think there is a difference. I think it depends on a lot of things. Some of you will disagree with what I've said, some of it, or maybe you disagree with all of it. That's absolutely fine. But leave your comments below. Do you like showboating? What do you think of it? If you do like it, why do you like it? And if you don't like it, why don't you like it? I want to hear your opinions and your views. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching this video. As always, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the subscribe button. It takes a second. And the like button if you don't mind. And yeah, spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.